Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Gladhill. I'm the Director of Special Education for Washington County Public Schools, and I have 5 children. 3 have individualized education programs, and 1 has an individualized family service plan. I've been an educator in special education for 22 years and have a doctorate in education or leadership. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act requires that schools provide eligible children with a free, appropriate public education. If not, they can be sanctioned by federal district courts. Schools provide parents with procedural safeguards. Progress is monitored, evaluated, summarized, sent home to parents prior to an IEP meeting. The team then develops prior written notice for each proposed change to the IEP prior to implementation. The Washington County Board of Education opposes Senate Bill 710. The impact of this bill will require local governments to file for due process to provide necessary specialized instruction for students in order to be in compliance with federal law, which will damage relationships between schools and families. The contents of this bill were reviewed by the Special Education Commission on Access and Equity and failed to become a recommendation. If parents refuse appropriate placement or therapeutic support to extinguish aggressive behaviors, this bill will create a significant safety risk to students and school personnel. If this bill was needed, there should be a pattern of increased due process hearing requests. Maryland has seen a 20% decrease in these requests since 2011. This bill will devalue the professional expertise of all qualified professionals. Related service providers will leave jobs in the private sector where their professional opinion is respected. IEP team decisions are critical to a student's success, so instruction can be specialized, and this bill will render that role of the IEP team meaningless. This bill cannot be passed without transferring the requirement of providing a free, appropriate public education to the parent. The contents of this bill attempt to circumvent and undermine due process rights established by our Constitution, which were specifically reviewed and upheld by the Supreme Court. We request an unfavorable response to this bill, and if it were to be passed, please consider hurting the attorney and party that does not prevail in the hearing to pay for all attorney's fees, court, and related costs to minimize hearings and to keep frivolous cases from being heard. And just to comment on some of the earlier testimony, the Maryland Disability Law Center does offer free representation to parents. The state has a complaint process that they look into because some of the things we talked about, that's atrocious, what was mentioned earlier. That should never happen. But that's a personnel matter. If this law was passed or not, it wouldn't have changed that. And I'm sorry to say that, but we don't want that to happen for any child. We train our teachers, our staff, our administrators. You treat every child as if they were your own. And that's how we should be treating every child. By implementing this, we are putting barriers into students getting the education that they need and delaying it for 15 days in some circumstances when we don't hear anything. A wide majority of our parents don't even come to IEP meetings sometimes. And when they don't, if we can't proceed with that necessary decision, we are putting that child's education in jeopardy and the education of other students. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gladhill, so to delay it in 15 days is placing the child in jeopardy, but for a student to be consistently in harm's way and you not notify the parent, that's not putting that child in jeopardy?
That notification should occur. I agree.
All right then. So and then you said if in fact the bill passes and every bill is amended, but you said it damages the relationship between the parents and the student and the schools, I think that's already been damaged as it relates to these individuals. And as for the 20% decline in burden of proof hearings, whether I have free representation or not, and many of them are not going to come that far to get the representation. And then even if the Community Law Center wanted to represent them, most people might think, and I'm not disparaging the Community Law Center, it's just not in that particular area. They might be too long. I might be at the bottom of their caseload because they are overworked. So everybody doesn't want to go to the Community Law Center. And it's time consuming and they have a great deal of cases when you want your services to your child expedited. So it is very costly when you want something to happen and your child is in jeopardy and you say go to the Community Law Center. The Community Law Center is overburdened and cannot take the case at the time.
And that's why in our district, we try to have parents contact me, our supervisor, our Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee, and I call parents back within 24 hours, and I'm investigating that case that day.
So every case you've investigated in 24
If there's a
hours.
concern like that brought to me, I would be looking into that before I left.
Well, they don't know that it's brought to them because they never notified the parent. Did you hear the testimony?
Yes.
They took the services away from the child. The child became increasingly worse in comprehending any educational attainment, and not only her whole attitude had changed. They never told the parent that they had done this, so they can't contact you. I am not denying that if in fact you knew that you would probably had interceded and contacted the parent, but the parent doesn't know to contact you, and they're trying to figure out what's happening to my child.
And when that did come to me as a special education director, I would look into that. We'd hold an IEP meeting and provide compensatory services for any potential damages to that child if it did result in damages to the child.
Well, that's excellent, and I applaud you for that. But first, I have to know that this is what's happening to my child, and that seems to be the problem here.
We do need to increase awareness, yes.
Yes, you do. Next.
Good afternoon. I'm Bobby Pedrick.